A human leg inside a five-star restaurant. A chilling discovery left the investigation team shaken to the core. Imagine savoring a gourmet dinner in a luxurious restaurant. Crystal chandeliers glow, soft jazz plays in the background. Everything feels flawless. But what if, behind all that elegance, lurked a horrifying secret? That night, investigators stumbled upon something no one could have ever prepared for. Hidden in the freezer, among crates of imported meat, was a frozen human leg. What dark truth lay behind the kitchen doors of this high-class restaurant? Whose leg was it, and why was it stored where only prime cuts should be? This shocking find would pull the investigation into a world of fear, secrecy, and unsettling mystery. New York City, a stormy December night in 2023. Rain slicked the streets, headlights reflected off the wet pavement, and the cold air made the city feel almost hollow. On the 12th floor of a downtown high-rise, a lavish restaurant named the Luminara glowed brightly. Guests laughed over wine, enjoying meals under dazzling lights. Everything looked perfect, yet beneath the surface was something terrifying. At 10:17 p.m., the emergency line at NYPD's Midtown precinct rang. The officer on duty heard the shaky voice of a young man. He introduced himself as Ryan Collins, a kitchen intern at the Luminara. His voice trembled as he said, "There's a foul smell coming from the basement freezer." Ryan reported hearing strange dripping noises and felt something wasn't right. Officers wasted no time. Within 30 minutes, a small team arrived, 3 detectives, 2 armed officers, and a forensic pathologist. The team was led by Lieutenant Mark Davis, a sharp-minded young officer known for his calm under pressure. From the outside, the Luminara radiated pure luxury. Valets parked sleek cars, the hostess welcomed guests with charm. Nobody could have guessed that a few floors below hid something capable of chilling even the bravest soul. The team headed down to the basement. The moment the metal door opened, the air turned heavy. A nauseating stench seeped out, a rancid mix that burned the throat. One rookie officer gagged, barely holding it in. At the end of the dim hallway stood a massive industrial freezer, nearly 7 feet tall. The door was locked with a keypad. But from the cracks, dark liquid oozed, dripping across the white tile floor, like something inside was trying to escape. "Who knows the code?" Davis demanded. The manager, Alan Pierce, was summoned. His face was pale, hands trembling as he typed the digits. A click echoed and the door creaked open. A blast of cold air rushed out, carrying an even stronger stench. The harsh white light revealed stacks of Australian beef. But in the corner, a black plastic bag had split open. From it, a frozen human leg jutted out, pale and unmistakable. Silence fell. No one moved. Only the hum of the freezer filled the air. Lieutenant Davis steadied himself, his eyes hardening. He knew this was only the start of something far larger. In a steady tone, he ordered the area sealed. Staff were escorted out, except for Alan, who had to remain. Dr. Karen Mitchell, the forensic pathologist, stepped forward cautiously. Davis stood beside her, his eyes fixed on the severed limb. "Dr. Mitchell, what can we tell from a first look?" She examined carefully, then said the leg belonged to an adult male. The cut was surgical, clean, made with precision. The flesh suggested the man was either alive or had died very recently when it was severed. Her words tightened the tension in the room. Davis turned to Alan, the nervous manager slouched in the corner. "Who normally has access to this freezer?" Alan swallowed hard, admitting only the head chef and 2 senior assistants ever opened it. He himself rarely entered the basement. "It's mostly Chef Victor. He's extremely strict and doesn't like anyone interfering," Alan muttered. Davis pressed him and Alan confirmed Ryan, the intern, had no access. Yet Ryan was the one who called the police. Minutes later, Ryan was brought in, pale and trembling. Davis reassured him, "You're not in trouble. Just tell us what you saw." In a hushed voice, Ryan said he thought it was spoiled meat at first. Walking past the corridor, he caught a strange odor and saw dark fluid dripping from the freezer. Terrified, he called the police. "Did you open it?" Davis asked. Ryan shook his head quickly. He swore he never touched it, only Chef Victor usually opened the freezer. His account was checked against security footage. The tapes confirmed that in the past 72 hours, only 2 people had entered the basement, Ryan and Chef Victor Hayes. Victor's name now loomed over the case. A celebrated head chef, 41 years old, with years of experience at elite hotels before joining the Luminara. Talented, demanding, and obsessively perfectionist. To diners he guaranteed excellence. But to Davis, that perfectionism could conceal something sinister. "Ryan, when was the last time you saw Victor in the basement?" he asked. Ryan thought carefully. Yesterday, early morning. I saw him go in wearing heavy gloves. He stayed inside for over 8 minutes. Davis jotted it down. 8 minutes was far too long for just checking meat. Enough time to do something else entirely. Meanwhile, Dr. Mitchell inspected the bag further. From inside, she pulled strands of long hair, likely belonging to a woman. The case grew darker. Was the victim truly a man, or were multiple victims involved? Davis's eyes narrowed. He ordered the samples sent for DNA analysis and compared with recent missing persons in New York. Rain pounded the windows above, adding to the unease. Ryan sat ghostly pale, Alan fidgeted nervously, while Dr. Mitchell worked with quiet focus. Davis, deep in thought, pieced together the possibilities. He knew this was only the surface of something much worse. The leg wasn't just evidence. It was a doorway to a horrifying truth buried beneath the Luminara's glamour. With a firm voice, Davis ended the night's operation. Tomorrow morning we bring in Chef Victor Hayes. He knows more than anyone. The clock read 12:15 a.m. Rain poured across Manhattan, and the official investigation into the Luminara had only just begun.
They came equipped with precision scales, a thermal scanner, and a small drill to search for concealed spaces. We need to check every corner. Nothing can slip past us, Lieutenant Davis ordered. The first freezer door swung open. Inside, imported beef was stacked in neat rows. Each package was lifted, weighed, and inspected one by one. At first, nothing appeared unusual, until a package labeled 5 pounds weighed far less than expected. When opened, the room fell into silence. Nestled between the beef was pale flesh with a disturbingly different texture. Dr. Mitchell carefully placed it into a sealed container. "This isn't beef. From the tissue, it's human," she whispered. The only sound was the freezer's low hum. Inspections continued, and several more packages revealed the same horror: meat mixed with human remains disguised as regular product. Davis clenched his fists. This isn't random. There's a method, a system for hiding victims and food supplies. They turned to the second freezer. Behind frozen meat sat a heavy black plastic bag. No one needed words to know what it held: more human remains. Long bones, organs, and tissue frozen solid. Dr. Mitchell examined quickly, whispering to Davis, "This isn't one victim. There are at least 3 different individuals here." Davis stood frozen, the weight of realization pressing down. This meant the young woman they had identified wasn't the only one. The Luminara might have claimed multiple lives. By morning, an emergency meeting filled the NYPD's Midtown headquarters. Evidence covered a board: photos of body parts, weigh-in logs, and surveillance clips. The air in the room was heavy with disbelief. The scope had shifted drastically. A senior detective said, "If there are 3 victims, we must review all missing persons in New York from recent months. Connections may point straight to Luminara." Davis added firmly, "And check every ex-employee who vanished without notice. That could lead us somewhere." Heads nodded grimly. The case was now officially treated as serial homicide. Meanwhile, in a holding cell, Chef Victor Hayes sat handcuffed, expression cold and unreadable. When asked, "How many lives have you taken?" Victor only gave a thin smile. That smirk alone unsettled even the toughest officers. When Davis was briefed, he muttered, "He won't talk easily, but we'll find another way." Before the meeting ended, the technical team presented new findings. "Sir, the building's blueprints don't match the freezer dimensions. There's a 1-yard discrepancy at the back. Either the plans are wrong or there's a hidden room." Murmurs filled the room. Davis stared hard. If there's a hidden room, it could be the key. "We searched tonight." They now knew this wasn't just about freezers filled with body parts. The Luminara might be concealing something far more sinister within its walls. Outside, light rain streaked the windows of Manhattan. The city seemed to hold its breath, as if sensing the horrors still buried beneath its glitter. That night, the investigative team gathered again in the restaurant's basement. The building's actual structure clearly differed from the blueprints. Davis stood before the freezer wall, pointing to the plans. Dr. Mitchell and the technician stood nearby. "This room should be larger. Something's hidden." Technicians scanned with the thermal camera. Cold spots revealed empty voids behind the wall. When struck with a hammer, the clang rang hollow. "Lieutenant, this wall hides a space," one technician confirmed. Davis gave a short nod. "Open it." The drill roared, sparks flying as the steel panel was cut open. For 30 tense minutes, the basement filled with grinding metal until the wall gave way, revealing a dark corridor. A foul stench poured out, forcing officers to mask up. Davis raised his flashlight and stepped forward. The passage was damp and narrow, lined with cold steel. At the end was a small locked door. Forced open, it revealed a dim chamber. The air was suffocating. In the center, a large steel table stained with dark marks stood beneath a dangling lamp. Nearby sat a sink, hoses, and rusted tools. But the worst sight lay in the corner, several ripped black containers. Inside were human bones, some whole, others fragments. A young officer staggered back in shock. Dr. Mitchell leaned closer, then whispered, "These bones belong to multiple people. At least 4 victims." Davis's fists tightened with rage. Upstairs, patrons had dined in blissful ignorance, while this nightmare sat beneath them. Technicians pried open a locked cabinet. Inside were glass jars filled with preservative fluid. Suspended inside were pieces of human tissue, catalogued like a collection. The room fell silent. Only the clicks of cameras broke the tension. Davis lowered his head, voice heavy, "Document everything. Nothing gets missed." For 2 hours, every item was catalogued, bagged, and photographed. The room's layout confirmed its purpose, an execution chamber. Victims had been killed here, their remains disguised as food and hidden in freezers. The following day, photos of the steel table, jars, and bones covered the evidence board at HQ. A senior officer spoke gravely, "With at least 4 victims, this is no ordinary case. These are systematic killings." Davis agreed, "Now we must establish the true number of victims, and whether anyone else was involved." In his cell, Victor Hayes stayed eerily calm. When told about the hidden chamber, he smirked and whispered, "So you found it? Good. But that's only the beginning." His thin smile chilled every investigator. That night, Davis studied the evidence board in his office. Photos of victims, diagrams of the secret chamber, and forensic reports stared back at him. He knew they had only scratched the surface. Outside, New York's lights sparkled, but beneath them lay a monstrous truth.
The Luminara wasn't just a luxury restaurant. It was the heart of a carefully planned series of killings. Davis's instincts screamed, Victor Hayes wasn't acting alone. As whispers of the discovery spread, journalists gathered outside NYPD headquarters. From the balcony, Davis watched the press swarm below. He knew it wasn't a question of if the truth would come out, but when. Inside, tension filled the meeting room again. Evidence from the secret room was displayed, bones, jars, and the steel table. Davis spoke firmly, "We've confirmed multiple victims. Identification is now the priority. Open every missing persons case from the last 6 months." Dr. Mitchell nodded. "So far, at least 4 different individuals. DNA testing with families will give certainty." A young detective projected a list. The first, Andrew Nolan, 19, a college student working part-time nearby. The second, Rachel King, 27, an event organizer last seen after attending a hotel function close to the Luminara. Names appeared one by one, the room sinking deeper into dread. Patterns emerged. All victims tied back to the restaurant's area. The Luminara seemed to be the hunting ground. Meanwhile, media pressure mounted. Police Commissioner Robert Steele called Davis into his office. His brow furrowed. "Mark, this is dangerous. Many powerful people dined at Luminara. If the press links them, this could explode nationally." Davis replied firmly, "Lives were taken. We don't stop because of influence." Steele sighed, knowing Davis wouldn't back down. In detention, Victor Hayes refused most questions, responding with silence or a cold laugh. His words in the chamber echoed, "That's just the beginning." Davis summoned Ryan Collins again. Nervous but braver than before, Ryan admitted, "I sometimes heard noises below, like people crying. I thought it was staff working overtime, until it kept happening." Davis pressed, "Why didn't you report it?" Ryan lowered his head. "I was scared." Victor ran the kitchen. "If I spoke, I might have been next." The room grew tense. Ryan's confession strengthened suspicions victims may have been kept alive before their deaths. That evening, a fresh briefing confirmed 5 employees had abruptly quit over 6 months. 2 vanished completely. Davis's voice was grim. "If they're victims, the number is far higher." Dr. Mitchell added, "The remains suggest over 10 people. Maybe more." The weight in the room was crushing. Meanwhile, a TV station aired a story on New York's missing persons spike. While no names were said, the Luminara loomed in the public's mind. Davis knew time was against them. He stared at the evidence board again, Sari's photo still pinned in the center. Victor's words replayed, "That's just the beginning." Davis knew Victor wasn't the only player. The next day, the victim list grew longer. Andrew Nolan, Rachel King, and several missing staff. All arrows pointed to Victor Hayes. But Davis's gut said more people were involved. A young investigator presented findings from Luminara's kitchen computer. A hidden folder listed over 20 VIP guests who had received special menus. None of it was in the official system. Davis asked, "Whose names?" The investigator hesitated. Top businessmen. A well-known celebrity. Even a sitting congressman. Commissioner Steele's face darkened. "This is what I feared. Luminara isn't just a crime scene, it's tied to power." Davis clenched his jaw. Still, he vowed the victims deserved justice no matter who was involved. But pressure built fast. Hashtags like #LuminaraMystery trended online. Sensational headlines spread, pushing the case into the spotlight. That night, forensic teams delivered a chilling find from the secret room, a faded red ink notebook. Inside were dates, codes, and initials. Some matched names on the VIP list. Davis's blood ran cold. It meant some guests weren't just aware, they indulged in it. The following day, a visit to the restaurant's suppliers revealed irregular shipments. Heavy sealed crates always destined for the basement. One delivery worker admitted, "The boxes smelled strange. My boss said they were special imports for VIPs." I didn't dare ask more. It became clear this wasn't just Victor's doing, it was a network. At HQ, another meeting confirmed the stakes. Commissioner Steele warned, "If officials are tied in, this case is dangerous." But we move forward carefully. Dr. Mitchell reminded them, "Don't forget the victims. The longer this takes, the harder identification becomes." In detention, Victor sneered at Davis, "You think you're close? You've seen nothing yet. The real ones are still out there, far more powerful than me. And they'll never let you expose them." That night, New York glimmered as always, but beneath its brilliance, a far darker truth waited to surface. Beneath New York's dazzling skyline, a shadow was spreading. From a single luxury restaurant, the trail pointed toward influential names, politicians, businessmen, and maybe more. Inside his office, staring at the victims' photos pinned across the evidence board, Lieutenant Mark Davis realized this wasn't just about solving murders anymore. It was about having the courage to confront powerful figures hiding behind polished dining tables. And his instincts warned him, the danger wasn't only outside. A leak could already be festering within the department itself. That afternoon, storm clouds hung over Manhattan, echoing the grim mood inside NYPD headquarters. After uncovering the VIP guest list and booking records, Davis felt the pressure close in, not only from forces beyond, but from cracks forming within his own institution. A closed-door meeting was held in the Special Operations Room. Unlike the usual crowded briefings, only the core team was present. Davis, Dr. Karen Mitchell, two young investigators he trusted, and Commissioner Robert Steele. The evidence board behind them was now crowded with photos of victims, network diagrams, and the names of influential players beginning to surface. One investigator reported results from digital forensics on their own servers. "Sir, an unknown account accessed the case files and copied them out. The trace clearly came from inside headquarters," he said nervously. The room turned heavy. Steele met Davis's eyes with a grim expression. It meant there was a traitor inside, their investigation was being watched from within. Davis exhaled sharply, jaw tight. If this was true, every move they made was being tracked. The enemy could be several steps ahead. Dr. Mitchell warned in a hushed tone, "We must be extremely selective. If someone on the inside is compromised, one mistake could cost us a witness, or make evidence disappear forever." That night, a young woman arrived at headquarters, her face pale with fear. Her name was Maya, 24 years old. She admitted she once worked part-time as a waitress at the Luminara during a private event. "I only served drinks," she said with a trembling voice. "But I heard Chef Hayes mention a special menu for the VIP guests. I saw one plate carried to the 6th-floor dining suite. The transaction never appeared at the cashier. Everything had been paid in cash. After that night, Maya quit." Davis leaned in carefully. "Do you remember who the guest was that evening?" Maya lowered her gaze, hesitating before whispering, "I can't say his name, sir. But I've seen his face on television. He's a public official." Her words froze the room. Nobody dared speak above a whisper. Davis immediately ordered that Maya be placed under witness protection. Her identity would be concealed, her location heavily guarded. But by morning, tragedy struck. An investigator from another unit was found dead in what appeared to be a traffic accident. His vehicle was crushed, but the files he had been carrying were missing. Davis glared at the report, his voice sharp. "This wasn't an accident. They're sending us a message. Commissioner Steele placed a hand on his shoulder. "Mark, be careful. I know your resolve, but don't put yourself in their crosshairs next." Davis nodded faintly. Retreat was never an option. During a routine interrogation, one officer slipped and mentioned the accident in front of Victor Hayes. The chef smirked. "You're already losing people. I told you this is a game you can't win. You're up against the ones sitting at the tables of power. I'm just the cook. They're far more dangerous." Davis held back his anger, refusing to be baited. He knew Hayes was manipulating them, but his words cut too close to the truth. Outside, pressure boiled over. Social media buzzed with rumors about a luxury restaurant tied to missing persons. Families of victims flooded the station, demanding answers. Journalists swarmed the entrance, shouting for statements. Inside, tensions rose. Whispers spread that higher-ups might try to shut the investigation down. Some officers even suggested slowing Davis's team, but he refused. Every victim had a family waiting for the truth. To stop now would mean betraying them. Dr. Mitchell approached him, her voice steady but concerned. "I know you're right, but you need to stay alive to see this through. Don't be reckless." That night, Davis sat alone in his office. The evidence board loomed, photos of victims, bone fragments, the VIP list, Maya's testimony, all staring back like unsolved pieces of a puzzle. He shut his eyes, took a deep breath, and swore to himself he wouldn't back down. Because in this storm of darkness, only one thing was certain. The truth had to come out, even if it cost him everything. Outside, heavy rain swept across Manhattan. The cold, damp air seeped into Davis's office as the clock struck 10 p.m. His secure line rang. An intelligence source spoke in a rushed tone. "There's a leak." Someone inside gave copies of the files to outsiders through an encrypted channel. The trail pointed directly to NYPD's internal network. Davis's pulse raced. "Who was it?" he demanded. The only answer he got confirmed his worst fear. The trace came from an officer inside headquarters. His suspicion was right. The traitor was among them. The next morning, more bad news arrived. The car transporting Maya to a safe house had been rammed on the highway by an unknown vehicle. The escort driver was killed instantly. Maya survived only by leaping out in time. Shaken and trembling, she arrived back at the station. "I can't go back," she sobbed. "They already know I'm with the police." Davis promised protection, but inside he knew her life now hung by a thread. At headquarters, Commissioner Steele pulled Davis aside. Central Command had suggested suspending the investigation to prevent public panic. Davis refused outright. "If we stop now, they win." Steele sighed heavily. "Then know this, if you keep going, it won't just be your badge at risk. It'll be your life." Davis said nothing. He had known the cost from the beginning. That afternoon, chaos struck headquarters. A fire broke out in the data room. Though quickly contained, the hard drives were destroyed. Technicians discovered a neatly severed cable. It had been sabotage. Davis stared at the charred screen, jaw tight. Evidence could no longer be trusted inside the system. Dr. Mitchell agreed. They would create physical backups and store them in a university lab that once partnered with the department. That night, Davis questioned Hayes again. When told about the data breach and the attack on Maya, the chef only leaned forward, smirking. "They're closer than you think." The words hung in the air like a blade. Hayes was clearly playing with him, but Davis couldn't ignore the truth buried within. Meanwhile, Maya's fear deepened. The night after the highway attack, she found a note slipped beneath the safe house door, written in red ink. "Stay silent or you'll end up like them." Davis's chest tightened as he read the message. Their enemy wasn't reckless, they were precise. He called Steele and Dr. Mitchell immediately. "We can't stay defensive. We're under attack from both inside and out. It's time we strike back." Steele's gaze lingered on him. "If you do this, you'll be fighting not just criminals, but men wearing the same uniform standing beside you." Davis lowered his head, silent but resolute. That night, rain slicked the streets as New York shimmered under storm-soaked lights. From his office terrace, Davis stared down at the street below. The sound of cars and rain felt like whispers of unseen threats. He glanced at Maya's photo freshly pinned to the board. Beneath it, scrawled in red ink, was a single word: key. He knew her survival was the only path to unlock this darkness. And to protect her, he'd have to face enemies not only on the outside, but possibly within his own ranks. By morning, the city streets glistened damp, as if holding secrets waiting to break. At NYPD headquarters, tension was thick. Davis had just learned that 2 envoys from Washington arrived to meet leadership about the Luminera case. In the conference room, Commissioner Steele sat with two sharply dressed men. Their smiles were polite, but their words carried threat. The investigation must not reach names it could not afford to. Davis wanted to argue, but Steele's subtle glance told him to hold back. The meeting ended in strained silence. Afterward, Steele admitted, "They have the power to end careers overnight. Be careful, Mark." Davis answered in a low, firm tone, "If the truth costs me everything, then so be it." Meanwhile, Maya's condition grew worse. The first safe house was too exposed, too easy to trace. Dr. Mitchell reported that Maya woke nightly in cold sweats, haunted by the 6th-floor VIP suite and Hayes' chilling smile. Davis decided to move her to a remote house at the city's edge. On the way, a motorcycle tailed their convoy, but they managed to lose it down a side street. At the new location, Maya sat trembling on a worn couch, clutching her hands. "I just want a normal life," she whispered. "But every night I hear their laughter. I'm terrified." Davis knelt beside her. "You're braver than you think. Without you, none of this would see the light." That evening, betrayal struck again. A young investigator named Irfan, whom Davis had trusted with digital files, was caught with case documents in his personal bag. Under questioning, he claimed it was just a backup. But the digital trail revealed he intended to send them through an encrypted email. Pressed harder, he confessed. Outsiders had reached him with money and promises of protection. He admitted he wasn't the only one. Others inside had already been bought. The revelation left the team in stunned silence. Davis dropped his head, gutted by the betrayal. Irfan had sat with him in countless briefings. That night, Davis visited Hayes' cell. Without prompting, Hayes grinned. "So you finally learned. They're not just my clients, they're my protectors. As long as they walk free, you're digging your own grave." Davis's stare was cold. "Every word you speak only proves why this truth must come out." Hayes chuckled, savoring the chaos. Outside, pressure climbed. Headlines screamed about a hidden witness. Social media buzzed with speculation. Davis's blood boiled. Someone had leaked Maya's existence again. Dr. Mitchell rushed in. "If Maya's identity keeps getting out, she won't survive. We need to seal every gap and tighten her security." Davis agreed, knowing time was slipping away. That night, he wandered the dim archive room alone. The flickering light cast shadows over maps and photos crisscrossed with red lines. Rainwater dripped from the ceiling. In his mind echoed Steele's warnings, Maya's frightened voice, and Hayes' sinister laughter. He knew a storm was coming. The only question was, who would endure and who would fall? At the secluded safe house, the night was unnervingly still. Surrounded by dense trees, the house wasn't even listed in department systems. Officers guarded each corner. Dr. Mitchell set up medical equipment while Davis checked locks, vents, and the roof. After Irfan's betrayal, he trusted no one but her. Maya sat pale in a chair, sipping tea with trembling hands. Her eyes darted to the windows as if the darkness outside might break through. Around 11 p.m., dogs barked wildly in the distance. An officer checked the yard, nothing. 15 minutes later, the power cut out. The house plunged into blackness. Maya let out a cry. Dr. Mitchell pulled her close as Davis barked low orders. "Form defense. Nobody moves alone." Moments later, footsteps splashed outside. Figures darted past the windows. Gunfire shattered the silence. Officers fired back, but their radios went dead. The signal was jammed. Davis realized this was a coordinated strike. He pulled Maya into an inner room, ordering her to hide behind a steel cabinet. "Stay here. Don't come out no matter what," he told her. Tears welled in her eyes as she nodded. The firefight raged for 10 tense minutes. 2 attackers were killed, the rest slipped away into the night. Muddy tracks and tire marks scarred the yard. Davis stood in the darkness, chest heaving. This enemy wasn't random, they were trained. By dawn, headlines exploded. Police witness attacked at secret safe house. Davis's fury boiled. Only an inside leak could explain how the press knew. Commissioner Steele summoned him, exhausted. "Mark, Central Command wants Maya moved out of the city." Davis shook his head. "Highways are watched. If we move her now, she's dead. We stay put and gather more evidence." Steele's eyes were tired. "If this fails, it's on you." At that moment, Dr. Mitchell arrived with decrypted messages from Irfan's laptop. Orders tied directly to a sitting congressman with deep ties to the Luminara's business network. The room fell silent. Davis clenched his fists. This wasn't just Victor Hayes, it was a web that stretched higher into power. Meanwhile, Maya's condition worsened. She sat curled in the corner, whispering, They'll find me no matter where I hide. Dr. Mitchell held her tightly. You're not alone. We'll protect you to the end. In his cell, Hayes smirked when Davis entered. See? Even your walls crumble. They'll break you before you break them. Davis stayed silent. Political pressure escalated, calls from Central Command, rumors of reassignment, colleagues stepping back. Hayes relished every moment. But isolation only hardened Davis's resolve. That night, in the safe house's makeshift office, he grabbed a red marker and circled the congressman's name on the board. Lines stretched from it to Hayes, to the Luminera, and out toward businessmen and officials. The network was no longer invisible. It was right there in red ink,